Okay, I'm going to read to you all of this information for these worksheets that you guys are going to do about the Industrial Revolution. You can work with an elbow partner. Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution wasn't a war. It was a process of change in the way life was lived. It began in England and spread throughout Europe. Eventually, it moved to the United States. It had a tremendous effect on human history. Everything and everyone changed. The way things were done went from being done by hand to being done by machines. People went from living and working on farms to living in the cities and working in factories. There wasn't a particular date when the Industrial Revolution began. In some ways, it has yet to end. However, most people think it took place in the years between 1760 and 1860. It is called a revolution because of how it changed everything. There were no battles, army captains, or foot soldiers. Imagine for a moment that there was no electricity. Now imagine that in order to eat, you had to grow your food or hunt for it. Forget about bathrooms and running water. In fact, forget about school. You work because you have to. Now you have a little bit of an idea of how life was before the Industrial Revolution. Look up the definitions for the words below. Write the definitions on the lines. Number 1, revolution. Number 2, factory. Number 3, process. I'll read these words again. Number 1, revolution. Number 2, factory. Number 3, process. Okay guys, pause the video here and do your work, and then come back to the video for your next page. Page 2 of Industrial Revolution. Life was very hard before the Industrial Revolution started. People worked on farms and depended on their own strength to get fields plowed and crops harvested. They had animals to help with some of their work. Wind and water were utilized too, but these could not always be relied on. There were years of drought, and weather was as out of human control as it is today. That had consequences far worse than we suffer today. Remember, back then there was no electricity, no running water. Cooking was done on a wood stove, and wood had to be chopped and burned to keep the stove working. This is a picture you can color. This is what life was like back then before the Industrial Revolution. You can pause here and come back to the video for worksheet number 3. Worksheet number 3, Industrial Revolution. In the years before the Industrial Revolution, farmers in England had begun crop rotation and using fertilizers to get more produce that was also bigger. With more food, it was possible for more people to move into the cities. People began moving into cities because cities were good for factories. It was in factories where more efficient production of goods began to take place. There were 3 big changes in Europe and the United States during the Industrial Revolution. Number 1, the use of more machines to make more things. Number 1, the use of more machines to make more things. Number 2, mass production made things more efficiently. Number 2, mass production made things more efficiently. Number 3, more people were leaving farms and going to cities. Number 3, more people were leaving farms and going to cities. Read each sentence. Fill in the missing word. Number 1. In the years before the Industrial Revolution, farmers in blank had begun crop rotation. In the years before the Industrial Revolution, farmers in blank had begun crop rotation. Number 2. People began moving to cities because cities were good for blank. Number 2. People began moving to cities because cities were good for blank. Number 3. There were blank big changes during the Industrial Revolution. Number 3. There were blank big changes during the Industrial Revolution. Number 4. Blank production is making things more efficiently. Number 4. Blank production is making things more efficiently. Number 5. Blank were used to make more things. Number 5. Blank were used to make more things. And what you guys need to do is look back through the little story and you'll find your missing words. Remember, you can work with an elbow partner. Okay, pause here and work on worksheet number 3. This is worksheet number 4. This worksheet tells you about healthcare. Industrial Revolution. Before the Industrial Revolution, life was slow and things took lots of time. Children, once they were big enough, worked alongside adults. While the children learned to work and work hard, they had little time to go to school. Families had little or no money. They traded what they produced for the other things they needed. This demanded their needs to be simple. Clothes and shoes were used and handed down. It was not unusual to wear shoes too small with the toes cut out. If something was needed, it was made or done without. Often, it was necessary to improvise to meet needs. Sickness was far more dangerous than it is today. While we can stay in and rest when we have a cold, before and during much of the Industrial Revolution, people had to work no matter what. It was a hard, hard life. Medical care was very different. With people being spread out, doctors were few and far between. Sicknesses often led to death because people lacked sanitary conditions, medicine, and access to care by knowledgeable medical practitioners. Read each question below. Fill in the missing answer. Number 1. Children had little time to go to blank. Number 1. Children had little time to go to blank. Number 2. Blank often led to death. Number 2. Blank often led to death. Number 3. Before the Industrial Revolution, life was blank, and things took a long time. Before the Industrial Revolution, life was blank, and things took a long time. Number 4. Families had little or no blank. Number 4. Families had little or no blank. Okay, pause here and finish that worksheet before you move on to the last one. Okay guys, here's the last one. Use your imaginations and be creative. Here are the instructions. If you had lived before the Industrial Revolution, try to imagine what your home would look like. Draw a picture of your home. Do some research first. Well, let's think about it, guys. What would they have had to build their house out of? They didn't have plastic and concrete and things like that. You couldn't go to the hardware store and buy your things. So you might want to Google homes before the Industrial Revolution, or where did people live before the Industrial Revolution? If you Google those things and look at images, it will give you some inspiration, and then you can draw your picture. I'm looking forward to seeing them, guys. Okay, good luck.